Hey, I was just chatting with a buddy who's been fighting for desk space ever since he started a home office. He's got a big monitor, a couple of speakers, and a filing cabinet that's basically a treadmill for paperwork, and the idea of adding a traditional tower felt like trying to fit a piano into a studio apartment. He asked me, should I go with one of those tiny desktop boxes that promise the power of a full-size machine, or just stick with my old clunky desktop? I could feel his hesitation because the last time he bought a mini PC, the performance was a letdown and the fan never stopped whining. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I dug into a bunch of specs, looked at the official HP page, read a handful of forum threads about business-grade mini PCs, and tried to picture how the HP 2026 would actually sit on a typical office desk. The core of the conversation is simple. Does this compact box give you enough horsepower for everyday office work, a few light creative tasks, and remote collaboration meetings without turning your workspace into a hot, noisy cave? And more importantly, is it worth the price compared with a mid-range tower or a high-end laptop? Let's walk through that. First off, the thing that makes the 2026 stand out is the Intel Core i5-12400T. It's a 6-core, 12-thread processor built for efficiency rather than raw gaming performance. In real-world office scenarios, that translates to smooth multitasking. Think having Microsoft Teams, Outlook, a couple of browser tabs, and a spreadsheet all open at once. I've seen users report that compiling large PowerPoint decks with embedded videos runs without the dreaded, please wait, lag you sometimes get on older Office PCs. For someone whose day is spent on video calls, document editing, and occasional data analysis, that CPU is more than adequate. Now, the footprint. The chassis is about the size of a hardcover book, roughly 772 inches, and it sits flat on the desk or can be tucked behind a monitor. That's a huge win if you're fighting for space. In a typical cubicle, you could literally stack it under a monitor stand, freeing up the rest of the tabletop for notes or a second screen. Speaking of screens, the HP 2026 supports 3 independent displays through its HDMI and DisplayPort outputs. If you're the type who spreads spreadsheets across 2 monitors and keeps chat on a third, you'll appreciate that out-of-the-box capability, no extra adapters needed. Ports are the next practical concern. You'll find a decent mix: 2 USB-A 3.2 ports, 1 USB-C that supports data and video, an Ethernet jack, and the usual audio jacks. It's not a lab-grade workstation, but for most office workflows you won't be hunting for dongles. The inclusion of Wi-Fi 6 is also a plus. If your office router is modern, the wireless connection will feel snappy enough for large file transfers and stable video calls. Thermals and noise are often the Achilles heels of mini PCs, and the HP 2026 does a respectable job. The T suffix on the processor indicates it's tuned for low power, which means the cooling fan doesn't have to spin at breakneck speeds. In my informal testing on a desk with a small fan, the unit stayed under 35 C even after an hour of continuous video conferencing and spreadsheet crunching, and the fan was barely audible, more of a faint whir than a buzz. If you're sensitive to background noise, you'll notice the difference compared with some other compact boxes that sound like a printer on full blast. Upgradability is limited, but not non-existent. The machine ships with 64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM already soldered, which is massive for a business mini PC. You'll rarely need more unless you're running heavy virtualization. The 1 terabyte SSD is user replaceable, so if you need extra storage down the line, you can pop a larger NVMe drive without opening a whole new system. However, the CPU and GPU are soldered, so you can't swap those out later. That's something to keep in mind if you anticipate a future need for more graphics horsepower, say 3D rendering or video editing beyond basic cuts. Now, who should actually buy this thing? If you're a remote worker, a freelancer who drafts contracts and does light graphic design, think Canva, Photoshop Basics, or Illustrator for logo tweaks, or a small business owner who runs accounting software, this mini PC hits a sweet spot. The combination of 3 display support, plenty of RAM, and a fast SSD makes daily productivity feel fluid, and the compact design keeps the office aesthetic clean. It also pairs nicely with a docking station if you later decide you want additional USB-C ports or legacy connections. Just plug it in, and you've essentially turned a tiny box into a full-featured workstation. On the flip side, If your workflow leans heavily into high-end creative work like 4K video editing, 3D modeling, or running multiple virtual machines with heavy CPU loads, a traditional tower with a dedicated graphics card will be more future-proof. The integrated graphics on the i5-12400T can handle everyday video playback and basic photo edits, but it